Yes, and we are live for the first edition of the African Basketball Conversation. You see what COVID is forcing us to do, Femi?
Right, right. But it's all good. Thank God for technology. We still feel like we are in each other's presence, and we're having that conversation that we want to have. Regardless of not being in the same geographical location. So I'm just excited, that we can still do this regardless of COVID-19. I just hope that very soon it becomes something of the past and we get back to our normal lives. I just can't wait for that time.
I know, I know, I know. But thank you for thinking of this brilliant idea of bringing together the great African basketball minds across the continent to talk about very relevant topics. So I see there are already 8 people on the live. If you want, we can give them a bit more time to log on. Um,
Yeah,
or we
I
can.
think we should do. I mean, let's just give about 2-3 minutes and just see how many people can catch up
Yeah.
with us. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's an immense pleasure to have you guys log on and join us in this beautiful conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about. It's going to be for those who are just tuning in. It's going to be about 75 minutes long, but really, it could be a 3-day event. Like we could talk about this
Absolutely.
all
You
day.
know, you know what? To be honest with you, in the later stages, when I was trying to, plan out, the conversation, the direction we're going, because it was actually very intentional. Just calling it the Africa basketball conversation and not putting any subheads or themes, because I just felt, you know what? Let's just dive into this and see what Africa is saying, what we react to, what our people back home would pick interest in. And at that point, I felt we perhaps, had too much to chew with regards to the amount of discussion that we want to have. And by the time I reached out to everybody on this lovely panel, everyone signaled their interest to come in. And I'm like, oh, this is a whole squad, 12, a whole basketball squad, yeah, for a tournament. And I began to rack my head as to hope I didn't ask for too much, but I'm sure we will be able to take care of things with professionals. And yes, I know for a fact that at some point we might perhaps be making this a 2-day, 3-day event, just so everybody can be heard. I mean, there are 52 countries in Africa. Today we're representing just 9, and we look like we are so much already. So I'm just excited about what the future holds. But it's really good to be here today and to witness this very remarkable day.
Absolutely. Well, we have 18 people on the live. I think that's good enough for me to get started. So I'll hand the reins over to you, first and foremost, Femi. Why don't you let the people know what this is all about?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us in the African basketball conversation, the first of its kind. I must say it's an honor and a huge privilege to have this opportunity, of convening this landmark event. My journey into basketball on the sidelines started sometime around 2012. After, of course, I dumped my dreams of playing basketball professionally, just at the age of 22. I know a lot of people would want to say perhaps you are not good enough, that's why you dropped out. But the truth is, we know the peculiarities of Africa, and I mean, I am just one of 1,000, a million kids, who love the game, who want to play the sports, but for one reason or the other, which are, the topics we will be talking about in this conversation, why, that sort of happened. But I'm glad I was able to represent my school. I was able to play for my university. I'm not like Victor Muzadi, who was able to go to the Olympics and win 3 AfroBasket titles. But yeah, I mean, I'm a journalist, and that was how we started. Deciding, to find a sport for myself. When I say sport, SPOT, in regards to showing my passion for the game. And
Right.
it's been a very fantastic journey, I must say. I remember in 2013 when I made that audacious move after I quit in 2012 to go to Ivory Coast for the FIBA Africa journalist training. We were just a handful of journalists there. I took a 2-day road trip. That story is for another day. But it was just part of how much my passion was burning to still be a part of the game, even though I knew quite all right that I was ahead of time in terms of age and a lot of other factors wasn't going to help me harness my potential. But cut long story short, 2018 had the opportunity, to gravitate through 4 or 5 AfroBasket championships to the NBA. Went to Los Angeles, Staples Center, went to the United Center in Chicago and Indianapolis as well. And it dawned on me at that point, that basketball in Africa is missing something. Comparing, my experience with traveling to almost 6 cities across Africa at major tournaments, and that birthed this conversation, and that birthed the organization that is hosting this conversation, Balls Activating Literacy, and Leadership in Africa. I want to tell you guys that this is about impact. It's not just a one-off or a coming together of some people who just like to talk or want to talk. Everybody in this panel is very passionate. They have invested not just their bodies, their time, their energy to this game, and they just want to see it grow. They want to see it develop. They want to see it, become more than it is. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you that my dream with this conversation is for one day an African basketball player on this continent will be able to stand or sit in the same room with Aubameyang, with Sergio Mane, and there will be no difference. They won't feel any less because they are professional athletes, regardless of whether they play at home or they're in diaspora. My dream, my goal is also to see, that we will be celebrating basketball players, even more. Maybe I'll just throw it out there. Who says we can't have an African Basketball Player of the Year awards? Celebrate the local teams out here. That's something that I think would be very prestigious for us to do and to put basketball, in a very good conversation. And lastly, I want to see African clubs on TV every other weekend. Kudos to the football leagues. We have the PSL, the Absa Premier League, we have the Zambian League, we have the Kenyan League on TV. Why not the basketball leagues on TV? Why not promote these players? So those are the burning issues really that has pushed me to get to this point. I will say, you know what? We need to start having these conversations. We need to start meeting with the people who make these decisions and start looking for ways, helping find solutions to getting basketball to that place where we all desire. And that is a very big dream for us. And I must say this before I close, that we are planning to stand on the shoulders of those, who are before us, who are doing great. The NBA Africa is doing an immense job in trying to promote the sport. The Giants of Africa, the Seed Project, the NBA Academy, trying to help with youth development and youth impact. But we also are looking, to create impact in some other ways more than one. Sports has a huge value chain, from coaching, to playing, to medicine. You can go on and on. I'm a journalist, for example. So there's a handful of opportunity to develop the sports, not just about the talent, not just about players going out to play in foreign leagues. If we develop the leagues, we can develop a structure and ecosystem where basketball can be, a morning spinning, revenue generating sport on the continent. And just like everyone is celebrating the Basketball Africa League, I think, the lower tier also needs to be looked at, because only a few will be able to enjoy that bounty of playing there. But if you're coming out from not so very competitive and financially rewarding leagues, we might not just be having the best product, at that level. So that's really the backstory behind, the African basketball conversation. That's why we are here. It's it's a marathon. It's not even a half marathon. It's not even a quarter mile. It's a long haul. So this is the first of many editions to come. We won't be in a hurry to announce anything yet, but I just want you guys to please join us in the conversation. Let us know what is burning in your heart. Let us give us feedback on social media. And let's continue this conversation, because it's important that basketball gets to that level, where we can celebrate our stars as much as we celebrate the football stars on the continent. That's the vision, that's the dream. And thank you very much for the honor. I want to say congratulations to the super team, all our 11 panelists and Madam Moderator, for being a part of this historic event. I wish you guys all the very best as we move on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Femi. And basically, case in point, the African Basketball Confederation was created to provide a platform where the 11 people, or rather 10 people you're going to be listening to, can share their views on different issues around African basketball. These are people from different parts of the continent. So I'd like us to dive in to our very first topic. And I will be inviting our guests in after we introduce the topic. We'll be looking at post-COVID outlook for basketball leagues within Africa. And we have a representative from Tunisia. We have someone from Cameroon, Angola, and Ivory Coast. I'm going to get them on here right now.
Good evening. Hello.
Hello, Beyrem.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine also. Femi, how are you? Femi in backstage, I think, huh?
Yes, we put him in backstage so that I can create some space to invite the rest. We have Mr. Yves Salah from Cameroon. He is president of the regional league. Bienvenue, Yves.
Thank you, Silalei. Thank you. I'm glad to be right here with you, be part of this important project. Femi, thank you for the great initiative.
Great, thank you so much. We also have
hello everyone.
Victor Muzadi. If I give
hi everyone, hi Silale.
Yeah, it will take us all day, so I'm just going to tell you his name. But Olympian.
Really? You started hitting on me at the start?
It's
Love
good to
that.
have you.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks, Femi, for the invitation and for the concept that you built to have everybody together, actually for the same goal, and share the audience, and actually, give a little bit of some info from different parts of Africa. That's really important to show that we can really do something together and be bigger than what we are now.
Absolutely. And we still have one more panelist from Ivory Coast. We'll give him a chance to log on. But in the meantime, I'd like us to dive right into our topic, gentlemen. We're talking about post-COVID outlook for basketball leagues within Africa. We're moving to a point where leagues are opening up. And I actually want us to use the case study of Tunisia, who had to shut down early when COVID happened, and then they opened it up and they've continued it where they left off. Bayram, can you tell us a little bit more about the experience around that, and what have been the pros and cons around opening the league when you have?
First of all, I want to thank Femi for organizing this event. Also, the African Basketball Conversation. It's a great opportunity to highlight African basketball and to share stories in many countries. In Tunisia, basketball is the third most popular sport after football and handball. But for the players and the fans, it's their life and the passion that never dies. Unfortunately, with this pandemic situation, many leagues were cancelled, and also an opportunity like BAL, Basketball African League, is postponed for the end of the year. But let's check how Tunisia Basketball Federation managed this situation. In Tunisia, the first case of COVID-19 was detected on March 1st. And in mid-March, we reached 20 cases. The last match of basketball was played on March 14th. After 2 days, the federation has decided to stop the league for a time. Then, to encourage people to stay at home, the players, coaches made video to invite them not to go out. Even the federation has broadcast historical match from previous Afro-Baskets, World Cups of basketball, and Olympic tournaments. After a month, the first meeting between federation and clubs was held online to discuss the situation and how to resume playing basketball. Federation took other decisions. For me, they were important to support clubs in this difficult situation, like the exemption of clubs from financial debts and 50% rejection from the player salaries until the end of the season. After that, the health ministry has given the green light to resume trainings after having a stability of the pandemic situation. A health protocol has been put in place. We come back to that later. Individual training resumed on June 4th, let's say, after a week collective trainings. And then a whole agenda and planning was made by the federation to continue games by the league, from the league and for the cups for both men and women. The health protocol was sent to the clubs by the end of the month of May. Among the decisions in this protocol, we can cite setting up committee made up of doctors to watch of the club players and setting up coordinator to assure the application of this protocol and to train the employee of the arena and halls, disinfecting halls, locker rooms, boards, balls, substitute bench, scores tables, and the stand before and after practicing our games, ventilation of the arena, and opening the windows during trainings and matches. Also, they provide 2 entry for each team so as not to cross paths. And at each entry, a temperature measurement into the arena and providing the hand sanitizers around the hall. Also, each team had 2 changing rooms and the obligation to wear the mask in the basketball arena. Social distance, no pics before the match, no kissing, no handshakings. Also, no press conference, only interviewing on the floor. And the important thing, testing all the players before resuming the training and the matches. The federation was severe, and the suspension and the fine for each club that does not respect these measures. For the fans, in the beginning, let's say 120 fans from the local team and 20 for the visitors were allocated. During the month of July and the beginning of August, the match of both men and women took place in good situations. However, the virus has taken over since the opening of the borders. That's why additional decisions are taken by the federation, like the cancellation of the rest of the season for youth section and making the cup final and the rest second division games behind closed doors.
Yeah. So in a bubble-like formation.
Yes, but how?
So the remaining of the senior league, and you said for the second division, the Champions Cup will be played in like a bubble-like NBA formation.
Yes. But the end of this season last week, I think, and we have agenda for the next season. Yes, the next season of Tunisian basketball will be on October 7th, I think. I think we succeeded to resume the activity of basketball. As the president of the federation said one time, we wanted to award the title on the floor, and the best have won. Thereby, I congratulate US Monastir for winning the double, and I wish hard luck for the other clubs. But there is a lack. The audience, the atmosphere, the club songs, the super sub. Sports without fans in the stand, like the history with salt and fruit. Yeah. We miss encouraging teams, yelling out loud to push them and boost the players. Moreover, the players did not celebrate their wins with their supporters. Finally, as I said, first, for the player and the fans, basketball is their life and a passion that never dies. No barrier can prevent them from following this passion, even this invisible enemy called COVID-19. And as
right.
MJ said, obstacles, as MJ said, obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, work around it.
Thank you, Babe. Thank you so much for that. And sorry to cut you off. I just want to give the rest a chance to speak. Reggie, you heard about those very stringent guidelines for the Tunisia League to actually kick off. And even with those guidelines, the cases still went up and they had to scrap the youth league. Ivory Coast has the league coming up, starting up soon, correct? So is Ivory Coast ready to implement those kinds of measures in order to have a safe functioning league?
In Ivory Coast, we stopped the championship in March, but with the help of the health ministry, we are supposed to run the season before 2021. So with the help of the Ministry of Health, we can respect all the measures.
Okay, so Ivory Coast is ready to do what they need to do. They have the funding, they have the facilities, they have the equipment that is needed to make sure they can have a COVID-free functioning league.
Yeah. The Ministry of Health mentor the federations, and I think in 2 months we'll be ready.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be ready.
It's interesting that the government has to help with that. Victor, how are things looking in Angola? I know what is to the restart. Are you getting government support to have the measures needed to start a COVID-free league, or how is that working?
Hi everyone, I Slalia for this opportunity, Femi. Yes, we have that crazy transition about the COVID-19, almost at the end of the regular season in Angola, where we have Coach Dingono Lazar with his boys from Petro basically beating everybody's around, and they was looking like they will won the championship. But because of the pandemic situation, we have to cancel the championship, and they lost this opportunity actually to win this championship. So far, a lot of things be done around. We are on June 5th, federations and clubs meet with the Minister of Sport, and they talk about how it's going to be post-COVID, and they set up a month of October actually to get back to the competition and sport activities. But for what the Minister of Health saying in Angola, it looked like in September, end of September, and right now August, we're gonna have the peak. It's gonna be like the higher point from COVID-19. So so far we have only like 2,000 people infected, and look like we're gonna go to the roof right now. So we're not sure about starting in October. And during those few days, maybe next week, we're gonna have from Sport Health Council some guideline on how we're gonna treat the facilities and the players, what kind of protocol teams have to apply to have at least players get back to trainings and etc. So what we have so far is players doing their own workout, some one-on-one skills trainings. We have Petro already make a move, a contract a trainer from Brazil. And we have a Ningono after all those years who actually run the show and win a lot of things here out from petrol. So yeah, we're going slow, make sure that everybody is safe, and we can actually push that without putting lives in danger.
Okay, all right. Now, Miriam actually brought in a very interesting point. The aspect of fans. It's huge for African culture. We play with the fans more than anyone else, really. How will that affect the basketball situation in Ivory Coast, for instance, Reggie? Do you think the players will be able to perform at a normal level during the games, despite not having fans in the gym?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But we are obliged to play. We are obliged to play. So the last weekend, the federation has organized a skill day challenge with a slam dunk tournament, a one-on-one contest. But it's difficult to play without fans. It's difficult to play without fans, but we are obliged.
Yeah,
yeah, we are obliged.
We have no other choice, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Biram, you seemed the most discouraged about the fact that there won't be fans. Do you think that the level of basketball in Tunisia will be maintained despite not having that kind of energy in the gym?
Yes, the fans are very important, except in also in Tunisia, and there are teams which and there were arenas with fans. It's very difficult to play there. To play in arena with the fans, it's to win there. It's very difficult, and I think we can't have the real situation and the actual strength of each team without their fans. They need their fans.
Okay, all right. Victor, I'd love to hear, as we wrap up this section, just briefly, what are your views on that? How will Angola, who also have some of the most intense and energetic fans across the continent, handle not being able to watch the games, and how will the players, more importantly, handle not having that kind of support?
First of all, I wanna say that I see that in different way. I think it's a great opportunity finally to get a transition to our sport, to bring more digital solution to sport, have more virtual solutions. I know that it's not taste that good to have fans around, but for the safetyness and the reach that will impose us to finally get clubs to grow invest on technology. That's the thing. This is what a lot of coaches overseas are lost when they look for sport in Africa. They're like, okay, I want to see content. I want to know what kind of training they have, what kind of players they have, and etc. So now we touch a point that without technology we cannot make it like monetize what we do, all the content, all the games. We cannot monetize that without technology. So don't have to see just on one side of the problem. We have to see another one that from now on, we have to bring that together, like the fans and the technology, virtual technology, to actually grow and survive this new phase.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your comments. Very much appreciated. I think we've used up our time for that particular conversation. So now I'd like us to move on to the next one, and I am going to take you guys out as we invite our next speaker. Again, thank you so much for your thoughts on that topic. Our next topic is going to be about the stunted growth of basketball in Africa. It's essentially the major factors. We feel like Africa really struggles with commercializing the sport on the continent, like the NBA has. So we're going to have different topics around this major conversation. The first one is on management, and I'd like to invite the president of the regional league from Cameroon, Mr. Yves Salah. Yves, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, of course, Silale. I'm sorry, I had a connection network problem, so finally I didn't speak about the case in Cameroon for the first conversation.
It's okay. Don't worry. I'm sure you represent very well on this next topic, and I'm sure you have a lot to say as president of a regional league. So we're talking about management, the mismanagement of leagues in relation to the stunted growth of basketball in Africa. A lot of players, especially in East Africa, and you can tell us how it is in West Africa, believe that the problem lies with federation management. Do you think that is the case?
Yeah, I think mostly it's the case because if you want to set a definition of the management, you will say that it's the art to combine human means and material means to achieve some objectives. That's the definition. And if you say that, it means that the manager should have objectives, and it is not most often the case because what are the objectives of the manager? We always ask, and they can't answer. And you should have a vision that you can share with the stakeholders, and you don't know it, you can feel it. And if you see all the other aspects of the resources, especially human resources, it is a big problem, because I think that a federation should have at least to 20 person working every day, some paid and paid people working voluntary, and you don't have it. You don't have it. And you see, when you arrive at the management of the federation, you should, I can say, you should see what is the environment, and to make a SWOT analysis, to set objectives, to write strategic plan, operational plan, so that we can make a monitoring. You don't see all those aspects, and I can say that yes, we have a mismanagement finally of the federation.
I mean, do you think that mismanagement rather comes from a lack of understanding about how to run a profitable basketball league in Africa? You know, you have some of these people holding these leadership positions in federations without a full understanding about the responsibility of a secretary general, the responsibility of the head of marketing and publicity. So maybe, is there a lack of understanding or of education in that regard?
Yes, we can see it because we have two profile of managers. We have some who are study management, and those who are just elected by politics. And when you are elected by politics, you should hire manager to see all the aspect of organizations. And that is the problem. You talk about marketing. Exactly, because you need to have qualified personnel to chase sponsors, etc., and you don't have it.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for those views. I trust that you're implementing what you've talked about in your federation and as you run your league as well. Thank you so much, Eve. I'm going to take you out now, but we will have you back later for some more insights.
My pleasure, Silari.
All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is rather subtopic, which is media and publicity. Now, we know the NBA generates the bulk of its revenue from selling TV rights. Is that something that we need to implement in African basketball culture? What is the role of media and publicity? We all know the woes when we go to a marketing department and they ask for numbers. Show us viewership numbers. Show us all kinds of numbers that most federations don't even have and aren't even keeping track of. So what is the importance of media and publicity? And for this, I'm going to bring in Adedami, who is the CEO and founder of B-Bomb Naija. If you guys are not following this, you absolutely should. They have great insights on African basketball and especially Nigerian basketball. Adedami, good to have you. Now I can't hear you. Let me unmute you.
Yeah, can you hear me now? I think
okay,
my mic was muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome.
How
I'd
you doing?
also like to invite Reggie back to this conversation. He is the founder of I believe it's
Iwa Basket.
Exactly.
Co-founder.
Thank you. So you gentlemen know how important it is to tell African basketball stories. And for myself, who's also been a TV presenter with Bake, I think one of the ways to generate excitement around the sport is to share the stories of players, of different factors that are affecting basketball on Africa. How important is media and publicity to elevate the growth of basketball in Africa? Let's start with you, Adedami.
Like you rightly said, media rights is everything for professional sports around the world. That is where they generate the bulk of their revenue. If you look at the NBA, they generate as much as $5 billion out of the $8 billion for media rights. The same thing with the Premier League. So if you want to grow sports in basketball in Africa, then you need to take media rights seriously. And again, we also need to understand that the value of your media rights is directly proportional to how popular your sport is. So what we need to do is to also ensure that we tell our stories, we make your clubs, the players, we make it as popular as possible. And for us to get to that point, there are a lot of little things we can do. We can leverage on social media to get that to happen. We can leverage on basic things as simple as quality photographs from league games to ensure that that happens. So if we try to do those little incremental things, increases the popularity of the sport, which then eventually increases the value of your media rights. So until we are ready to take media rights seriously, I don't think basketball will grow as much as we want it to grow in Africa. Because again, media rights is everything. You need to get that broadcast money, and there are things you can do as a club, as a federation, to start that process. Leverage on social media, leverage on digital media, leverage on storytelling, leverage on your players to increase the value of your sports, which ultimately increases the value of your media rights. So that's a place we need to focus on seriously, so we can increase the popularity of the sport in the continent.
Okay. Reggie, I'm curious to know about the publicity element. How valuable is publicity to grow the sport on the continent? I'm talking about print, not just TV as well, but print. How important is it for fans and viewers or lovers of the sport to understand the different stories of our African basketball players and teams?
I think the publicity is the basic to grow the game. And without commercials, without a sponsor, is difficult for a player, for a team, or a federation to practice basketball. And we noticed that during this period of COVID, without commercials, without publicity, the federation will be obliged to stop basketball. So media need to create content. Media need to keep on to create content, digital content, broadcasts, and if there are so many broadcast TV shows like Billboard, for example, the sponsor, the commercials can be attract and come to help the basketball to grow.
Now, you've made a very, very good point, Reggie. You've mentioned sponsorship, and I wanted to ask the both of you, what is the link between good publicity and getting sponsorship, which is a struggle for African basketball so far. What are your thoughts, Reggie?
To my mind, I think in Africa, there's the problem because of football. The commercials is how I can say this. The commercials invest money in football instead of basketball. Or you know that basketball is the second sport in Africa, and there's the lack of competition in Africa. I think the commercials always waiting for AfroBasket, the great competition to invest money. So this is why the federation, the local federation, has problem to how to say. I lost my English. I lost my English.
Federations that's why they have that problem in raising
Yeah.
money to support different, I guess, league finances. But Adedami, I want to know if you agree with Reggie on that link between sponsorship and publicity. Is there a strong link there?
Absolutely. There's a direct link between how popular your event is and the money you make from commercial partnership or sponsorship. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, and I was told that according to Star Times, the average viewers of the women's AfroBasket was less than 500. And Nigeria eventually won that tournament, and we had less than 500 viewers, TV viewers of that event. And again, you take this to any corporate organization for sponsorship, and they tell you that, see, I need more eyes on your event for us to drop money to partner with you. So we need to. So there's a very direct link between how popular your sport is, what your viewership numbers are, and the commercial rights you get on those events. So we need to find a way to increase that popularity. And I'll also give you an example. There's a strategy that FIBA adopted a couple of years ago, where for every FIBA tournament you follow, on their website, after every quarter, they upload pictures. So at the end of the first quarter, you have quality images that you can share on your social media pages. And journalists across the continent, across the world, pick this up, and they help FIBA, push those events. And it's the same thing that happened for AfroBasket women. The moment a game ends, you can see statistics, you can see images, you can write a full story. And those little things help in promoting those events and increasing popularity for your sports, which you can now tie back to corporate partnership. Because if you can demonstrate to a corporate partner that you will bring this kind of right or this kind of value or this kind of eyeballs on their product for all your events, then it becomes easy for you to get their money. So yes, there's a direct link between how popular your sport is, the publicity you create around your events, and the commercial partnership you get for those events.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for those insights. Really appreciate it. We're going to move on to our next topic, which is coaching. I feel like coaching is it the chicken or the egg thing? A lot of people complain about the skill level of African players, maybe lack of three-point shooting, lack of structured basketball. And we talk a lot about the players, but maybe it's a coaching issue. So I'm going to invite Hervé Bassog, who is the country coordinator for Giants of Africa in Cameroon. Bassog, welcome.
Welcome. Hello, Silale. Hello, everybody.
Good to have you here. I'd like to invite someone else, Mr. Abel Nson, who is a scout for the Toronto Raptors. We're not going to talk about how the Raptors are doing right now. Abel, we're going to avoid that. We're going to stay on task. We're going to stay on task. But gentlemen, both of you have been coaches at very high levels in Cameroon and in Kenya. You heard my question, the issue of the chicken or the egg. In terms of lack of skill development in players, is it the fault of the players themselves, maybe lack of initiative, lack of training, or is it the coaches who are teaching the wrong thing to the players? Let's start with you, Basog.
No, I can't. You see, players actually start playing from different situations. You have players who can actually start basketball in remote areas, and there are no coaches around, so they teach themselves how to play, and the way they'll play will be different from areas where you have established coaches who will be giving some fundamentals, some direction to how those kids play. But the main idea, according to me, is to create a culture of basketball that puts the emphasis on a certain level of skills like shooting, passing, etc. So it's the more our two are combined and also linked to sometimes the economic situation or the location or where the player has started playing. When you watch Angolans playing, you can feel when you see the national team that the Angolan players have a culture of sharing the ball and shooting, But let's say when you come to Cameroon, where you have great athletes and all that, it's they learn how to shoot, and once in a while you have one miraculous shooter who teaches himself how to shoot, and then makes the difference. But I really feel that is the culture on coaching and in playing that matters. You've been in East Africa, in Burundi, for example. Burundian players are always playing a very, very technically skilled game in terms of dribbling, in terms of passing, and way less physical ability. And somehow they dominated East Africa around between 2014 and 2016. They were quite good. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Well, we've lost Abel there, but we'll wait for him to come back. In the meantime, Basog, I still feel like you've not quite answered my question because you've told me the importance of coaching, but oh dear, and it looks like I've lost Basog as well. Apologies for that. In the meantime, I think I can bring in to come back. In the meantime,
hey,
so I still feel
so I'm here.
like you've not quite answered.
What's up?
And I don't know if Karabani is available. I'm trying to look for him, but it looks a little dicey. Let me bring in. So, gentlemen, I was trying to explain to Basog. He expressed very well the importance of coaching and how it develops the skills of a player. But my question is the lack of ability of coaches the issue when it comes to a lack of skill in the players? And if that is the case, does that mean that our coaches are not being properly trained? Let's start with you, Yves.
Oh, yes, I think that is a major issue. I think you should strengthen the capacity of our coaches. We know that because right here you don't have a national organization to have the grades of the coaches. So I think it's a major issue. We should have to strengthen the capacity of our coaches to have the better players. I think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Yves. Victor, what are your thoughts on that? Are coaches getting the appropriate teachings, the appropriate lessons in understanding what it takes to be a coach?
I mean, we have to go back to the basic. I know it's really like a cliche, but this is what we have to do. We have to understand that we're not born with those muscles and those skills that American players has. So we need to work on our one-on-one skills, learn how to really get coach who know how to teach how to shoot, pass, and dribble the ball. Because if you don't have that, and then you by years you're gonna get like the Q&A of the IQ of the game, etc., understand the position, etc. But the first thing, even when you play on the playground, is learn how to score the basket, at least know how to shoot. And with all those new information about offensive, defensive plays, all this, coaches are looking for how to run the team, but a lot of them get a part about how to build a player, because a player is just a reflect of his trainer who coached him during all the years. Okay, I was born with talent, that's great, but who shapes me? Silali, you play at a high level, and you will always remember one or two coaches who pass through your lives help you to achieve such a point.
Absolutely.
And this is the main key right there. We have to understand that we have to grow the understanding of the group execution, but the one-on-one improvement players must start from the youngest players. So when they get to seniors, they know how to go left and score. They know how to catch and shoot before to learn how to do the step back, fade away from 10 feet and miss 100 and make just one. I mean, yeah, I know this.
I've brought in Coach Liz Mills, who's tuning in all the way from Australia. Thank you so much. I don't even want to know what time it is over there, Coach Liz.
I don't even want to know what time it is over here. But thanks to Lali and Femi for having me. This is a really interesting subject because I actually think African coaches are some of the best self-taught coaches I've ever seen. Sure, the standard sometimes isn't great, but that's because of lack of opportunity. I think it's really, we need to point at FIBA Africa, NBA Africa, and be like, why aren't there more coaching courses, coaching clinics, online courses that people can do? Obviously, we can't have courses in 54 countries. That's just not financially feasible. But as much as we want to say, coaches, the standard in coaching in Africa isn't where it should be, I think we should also pat on the back coaches in Africa for teaching themselves the lessons of coaching. I had the ability to do all my degrees in Australia, and we have great coaching courses, but that isn't the same for African coaches. To discuss your point, I think given the fact that they don't have the same opportunities to learn, that's going to impact on their ability to work with players across the continent. I 100% agree with Victor and the other coaches in terms of we actually have to focus on youth development. By the time they get to senior basketball and they're working with me, I shouldn't have to teach them how to do a left-hand layup, how to run offenses and how to run defenses. We need coaching curriculums, we need coaching clinics, we need all these things before we can really grow the game on the continent.
Right. And I mean, I can't find Abel or Coach Basog, so I'm going to ask you this, Coach Liz. We're talking about very good points there, and again, big shout out to all the coaches who are self-taught and really have that passion to teach younger kids, even with the limited knowledge that they have. We're talking about the youth now, talent identification, and the junior leagues, because really you're starting basketball in high school, that's way too late. So we're talking about now, and it ties in with coaching as well, because kids have to be taught the right things at a young age. Otherwise they have to unlearn that and then learn the right way to shoot, the right way to do a layup, the correct understanding of the game of basketball later on. Just how important is it to identify talent at a young age for coaches and for scouts like even Abel, and how does that affect the junior leagues that now feed into the senior leagues?
I've been coaching in Africa since 2011, and I think it's got to be said, the development of junior leagues across the continent has improved significantly since then. The introduction of private leagues, the NBA Junior League. I saw in Zambia the youth league there. Then we've got regional leagues across the continent. Now we've got AfroBasket for under 16s, under 18s, etc. So there is now a pathway for players. I think we've got to understand that we need to encourage players at primary school. So how do we start implementing primary school leagues? As much as we want to develop club leagues, we want to develop basketball in the education institutions, starting from under 8s, mini ball, and educating not only schools, but parents on the benefits of sport in general. I cannot stress more the fact that we actually don't want players to just be solely playing basketball when they're 8, 9, 10. The more sports these players play, the better it is for them. Cross-skill helps them become better at an elite level. So as much as we want to push basketball at a junior level, we also want to encourage these athletes to play multiple sports. I'll leave Coach Herve because he's the expert in juniors.
Yes. I mean, that's a really good point that you made, though, about making sure kids are involved in diverse sports. I mean, case in point, people like Pascal Siakam, who played football at a younger age. Look at his footwork right now.
Exactly.
Even Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo. These are people who, like, they really played other sports, and then that now spilled into their skill level in basketball. And I think we have lost Basog again there. And I was about to, he's the country coordinator for Giants of Africa
Exactly.
in Cameroon. So I really want to try and get his views on that. Let's see if we can get him back on here.
I really think also, Salali, that not only is it important that we don't push young athletes to a specific sport early, it's also important for their mental health. We don't want to be pushing, oh, you're going to be elite at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you're playing multiple sports, the enjoyment factor, the ability to not feel that pressure yet, that's really important as well.
Right. Coach Basog, we're talking about talent identification and the junior leagues, and I know this is right up your alley. I'd really like to hear your views on just how important it is to teach kids the right things when they're young. And based on what also Coach Liz said, how young is too young? And how important is it to diversify sports kids are involved in so that it can spill into their skill level later? And I can see his connection is not good at all. Basog, are you still with us? Okay. I think his connection is really weak, so we're going to have to move on to the next topic. Thank you so much, Liz, for coming in and sharing your views. We really appreciate that and your knowledge on that topic. The next topic we're going to be talking about is national leagues and local players. And I'm going to bring in Eve Tsala, who was in earlier, and Adedami, who was also talking about media. Just a moment. Gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about national leagues and the local players. And I'd like to just kick off with something that, for the people who are watching, we're in a WhatsApp group and we have very heated arguments about very different topics. And one of the arguments we've had is about Afrocan. I think the inaugural Afrocan was last year, and we were discussing about how tournaments that are catered specifically for local players and for local leagues, does that elevate the level of competition and skills in our national leagues and local players? What are your thoughts on that, Adedami?
I think it's very important to find a balance between what the objective is and what the impact will be for our players. One, the objective is let's have more competitions where our local players can feature. Question again is, does that help our local players? And I'll say yes, it does. But most importantly is what those players and the national leagues within different countries can make out of competitions like that. Because again, if you don't increase the level of competition or professionalism in your individual country, then the level of African itself would it won't be something to write home about. So you need to go back first and improve the level of your national leagues so that the quality of players you bring to African will make a difference and will add value to the competition. So it goes back to what African will feed from the level of competition or level of professionalism of your local leagues. And if that is not sorted, then the quality of players you have at African, then again, it will be a problem. So we need to go back and fix the root problem first before we can focus on African. Yes, in terms of the objective of the competition to increase continental tournaments, yeah, it makes sense. But again, it doesn't fully solve the problem if we don't fix the national leagues.
Okay. Yves, what are your thoughts on that as well?
I will say that it is important to have this competition because we need more competition for our local players. We don't have enough competition. So this kind of competition, it is very important for local players because, when you have the Afro Basket, we have 12 professional players in the national team. So our local players are complaining about that we don't have enough competition. And so we bring one competition where they can play. So it is something important. It's a add value. But we say it is not enough. We need to improve all the ecosystem of our national basketball to really grow. But it is important to have this African. I can see it, I can feel it when, the first edition, Cameroon was not there. And the players right there were complaining about that, how we can play even this competition if we don't have any places in the Afro basket and in the club we don't go every time. So we need this kind of competition. We need those challenges for our local players.
Yes, yes. Now, for the both of you, do you think that having these kind of tournaments will help, during times for major competitions overseas, for instance? We're always looking for players who are out of the continent. Will that create a situation where we see more local players being selected to the final selection for maybe club championships? And fewer international players coming in once we have opportunities to grow the talent locally. What are your thoughts, Adedami?
I don't think African will automatically make that happen because there's a risk that what would see happen is local players being satisfied with just playing in African than making an effort to be a part of the team that goes for AfroBasket. You understand? So not to make them complacent or like a bicycle in stepping up their game, they might just be comfortable with playing in African and that will be that for them. So as much as, African has a role to play, like I said earlier, it doesn't solve that problem. It doesn't automatically guarantee that players would now be eligible to play for national team that goes for major international tournaments, say the Olympics or FIBA AfroBaskets. People might just see it as, okay, this is the level at which we play and we're satisfied with it. You understand? So it doesn't automatically guarantee that it will increase the level of our local players and will make them eligible to be part of the international squad. It doesn't. That in itself doesn't guarantee that.
Yves, do you share the same sentiments?
Partially, because I think it is important. You can make African and then you want to go a step a step forward. So making African should not make you satisfied to stay at this stage. After the African, you can be able to play for the Afrobasket, and I think it can be a motivation for the players to try to reach another step. So I'm not totally agree with my brother.
Yes. And then now, which leads me to my next question, the Basketball Africa League. We talk of the entire continent, really. How will having that kind of league impact local players, where it's a league that is formatted that to invite or try to create an allowance for a lot of international players to come in? So how will, again, to repeat the question, how will the Basketball Africa League impact the situation with national leagues and local players in terms of their skill level and their opportunities as well? Eve, we can start with you.
First of all, I'm happy because our team is going to be at the last stage of the competition, FAP. So we are going to have a representant right here. And what we saw in Yaoundé was fantastic, I think, to see all this public to encourage FAP and to see all those players. I think first, what the BAL brings is more visibility. You see, we saw more coaches right here in Cameroon to know who is FAP, the players of FAP. So it is important, and to have all those competition even in our local countries, because as I said earlier, we don't have enough competition to have all those countries come to play here. GSP of Alger, AS Police, it was something special. And I think all the players we have were very motivated to play with this public. And I think the presence of the American players too help our local players improve their skills, I think. I saw it with the point guard, Rosenden, and the way he plays with the forward, Gome, etc. And I can see that after this competition, when we went back to our national championship, we saw something different with our local players. So I really think that the Basketball Africa League is a good thing for our local country.
Okay, all right. As we wrap up this particular topic, Adedami, tell me, do you think the Basketball Africa League helps or hurts the local leagues and local players?
It doesn't hurt them, it helps them. Again, let's remember that the Basketball Africa League is just an evolution of the FIBA Africa Champions Cup. We've always had a continental championship. This is just making sure that it is a lot more professional. So it doesn't hurt, right? It helps. But what we need to do is now take a step further and to take away, to look at how professionally run the Basketball Africa League is, and take that back into our individual national leagues. One thing that we can see from Basketball Africa League is the investment in the league itself, right? The set of people running the league itself. And that's something we can learn from the National League, to say that, look, basketball, professional basketball has gone beyond just government money or government funding. You need the right set of investors. You need private investors to run professional basketball. You need the right set of people, because only when you run it from a professional perspective as a business, only when you do that is when we can create value for the professional players. That is when you can create an ecosystem of businesses around the league itself. And that is when you can properly develop basketball. And that's what we are saying with Basketball Africa League. The amount of professionalism, in put into running the league, the amount of private funding put into running the league. It just sets a blueprint that the national leagues can adopt and say, look, if we can get this, if basketball from the continental perspective can get this kind of funding and this kind of people and this kind of investors and corporate partners, then we can also come back to our national league and see how we can develop, how we can invite private people to run it or to get involved in it and increase the professionalism. So no, Basketball Africa League will not hurt the national leagues. It will help them. It will also motivate them and show them that, see, when you do things properly, miracles can happen. So I'm excited about it. I only hope that national leagues and national federations and the participating teams can learn something from it and take it back, to their own local games and their local leagues.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for those views, gentlemen. We'll now move on to the next topic. As our time is not too bad, we have just two more subtopics on this conversation. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the stunted growth of basketball in Africa and the major factors towards that end. Right now, we're going to be talking about the national teams, and I'm going to invite Albert Ahabwe, who is coming in from Uganda. He's currently the Uganda national team manager. Albert, good to have you on here. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Let me unmute you. Hold on, Albert. I think you're muted. Just unmute on your end.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Always glad to be here, Silale. A chance to discuss African basketball. Love it. I've been following the discussion. It's fun. Yeah.
It truly is. And I think it's going to be a good team of people talking about this particular topic. Liz, we saw you earlier. Welcome back. And the man himself, Victor Muzadi, will be joining us shortly. But in the meantime, Albert and Coach Liz. Coach Liz, you have been involved with numerous national teams here in Africa. I feel like you really understand the ins and outs of that system. Albert, you have been the team manager of Uganda's national team, and I feel like Uganda is really the poster child for basketball development in East Africa, and deciding on a strategy and implementing that strategy and seeing that strategy come into fruition. Basketball in Uganda national team 10 years ago and who they are today, it's night and day. So starting with you, Albert, really what do you think are the keys to success for Uganda's national team over the past several years to get them to where they are today?
Again, thank you, Silale. I think for us as a national team, as a country, we got to a point where we decided that it wasn't good enough for us to keep participating at these international championships as opposed to competing. And this was around 2013. We had a few runs where we kept going to the tournament. You look around the tournament and the type of players that are in the tournament compared to the ones that you have, and you can actually see that you have enough talent to be able to not just compete, but to beat everyone at the tournament. But for some reason, you just never do that. So going into the 2013 Zone 5 Championship in Dar es Salaam, we just took an appraisal of ourselves and said, look, this is what we have. This is what it would do, because we saw what we were doing in the club championships, how competitive we were in the club championships with these same players against the players that would then come players in national team competitions, and would be no game for them. So we discovered that our problem was preparation, our problem was organization, was putting in place the right coaches, the right fit. You could have a very good coach, but he's not a fit for the national team program. You could have very good players, but they don't fit in the model of national team basketball, because national team basketball happens every once in a while. So for you to be able to go there and be successful, you have to put all the pieces together that are able to match what you want out of your program. So we made an appraisal of ourselves. First, we separated the national team program from the rest of the programs of the national federation. The president at that time appointed a general manager for the national team program. So the general manager was tasked to go out and look for people who he could work with to run a good national team program that would bring Uganda back to competition. And that's how our national team management committee came up. We formed a committee of about 5 people. It was later reduced to about 3 people. Now we are mostly 3 people plus the president, because we report directly to the president of the federation, who then tells his executive and the General Assembly what we are doing on the national team end. But as far as the national team is concerned, we are a group of 3 guys. We run it. We added a lady, our former national team captain of the Gazelles, Vic Intale. We added her. So we are now 4 people. We have a conversation between ourselves. Whatever we do, we report to the federation president, and he reports to the executive and whoever. So I think that's a model that could work for not everybody. There are teams that are established. There are federations that are established that have been doing this for a very long time. Victor would tell you that they've been doing it for a very long time. So for them, they have an established system they run. But I would advise that for small countries that are just starting to put together a national team program and to try to grow their brand and get competitive, that would be a very good place to start. Have a small group of people who are very intentional, who are very focused on the national team program, and that's top to bottom, from the under 16s to the under 18s all the way to the senior teams. Have a small group of people whose attention and intention and resources are directed towards running the national team program and build it from there. That's what we've done.
Thank you for that, Albert. I think that's a great description of what to do right. Now, Liz, you've interacted, like I said earlier, with a lot of national teams. On the other end, what do you think national teams and national team organizations, the leadership committee, are doing wrong, which has led to the stunted growth of African basketball development?
I think there's several factors that have had a negative impact on national teams. I think it starts with the selection of the coaching staff and the support staff. A lot of national teams come in with just a head coach and assistant coach, don't have physios, don't have doctors. And so not having that right group at the top has a major impact. Secondly, I would say that federation interference in the selection process of the team. I've seen this numerous times. Head coaches have no say whatsoever, or the coaching staff have no say whatsoever in the selection of their players. Sure, everybody's opinion is valued, but at the end of the day, it's the coach who has to make the calls, and it's up to them to be able to select their 12. They have a vision that they want to carry out, and that's not necessarily going to happen with the players that a federation picks. I also think that a positive that has come in since 2017 is the FIBA 4-year qualification window. So we now see national teams having to play 2 rounds of AfroBasket qualifiers. This year we put in pre-qualifiers, which was great. So we have countries who haven't made AfroBasket before competing. We saw South Sudan, we saw Kenya, we saw Madagascar competing in these international continental tournaments for the first time. We have 4 windows for the World Cup qualifiers. So now that we have more on our national team schedule, we are going to have better ability for these teams to prepare for those major tournaments like AfroBasket and the World Cup. It also means that we need to engage our players on a regular basis. I know when I was with Cameroon and when I was with Zambia had 7 weeks to prepare for qualifiers. Cameroon, we had 4 days. So how do you expect a national team to work well if you have such a short preparation time? But those are really the three major factors that I think have really impacted the growth of national teams across the continent.
Right. Now, Victor, I want to bring you in on the conversation because Angola is Uganda is the poster child in East Africa. Angola is has been the king and the poster child for all of Africa, the entire continent, in terms of their national team success. Yeah, Albert, I'm feeling the fire. I know. So, Victor, I want to know, we talked about the key there. We talked about the things we should not do as a national team. Let us know now, what are the keys as a national team to staying on top consistently year after year, and just try and make it as brief as possible as we work with time.
So basically, I will say you need to build a culture. You need to build a culture of winning, of sharing and play together. You will not be every time on the top of your game, but if you can trust your teammates and you know what he do good consistently because you play against him and you know him and you'll be around him, because our preparation sometimes for African Championship take 2 to 3 months, sometimes 3-month preparations out of our natural environment. And from that, you really know who actually share the room with you, who share the floor with you. It's not just a jersey. Now this jersey have a soul and spirit and have emotions. So you know when he's on the top of his game, that you know that, look, today you have all the confidence of the world. I have to share the ball with him. And preparation. You guys have to know what you're doing on the court. Know your mission. I'm here, I'm defender. I already know that Albert will be scoring more than me because he's the guy who actually is our scorer. So this is another point. And preparation. You must prepare. You have to be fully equipped, from your physical aspects, for your mentally, because every come on the top is your confidence, is how well you can handle the pressure. And we have that against Uganda, Albert. You remember? If you guys almost beat us, but we didn't quit. Look, we have 30 seconds. The game is not over yet. They're scared. We need to do something, just one thing. They will give up because if they won the game. They didn't, I have to put the dagger on you. You know me. So that's a great example. It's not just be taller, be stronger, but these small things is the confidence and actually mental aspect of it help you to be great and keep winning. Because when you see Kobe Bryant, is a guy who went doing 20 years in the same locker room, playing and be around, the thing. So we know African Federation have a lot of issues, organization. We have to improve. It's a great moment to actually fix those things that Coach Lee is listing, or is like the physio, players recuperation. That's why you see a lot of players, they're getting young on the national team. At the end of the career, they're a little bit out because of this falling up. You talk about the recuperation, scouting report, have technology around. It's impossible. Angola, a lot of people say, Angola was great for this year. You know how many players we sacrifice on the way? You play from January to December. You go on the world tour, you just like 6'8", 6'10" on your good days. You play against a guy like Yao Ming. And then you come back here, you play against Nigeria, Olumide's boys, for all year. You don't have time to rest. It's great, but you have a high price to pay. And if you don't have the stuff that Coach Lee said, the stuff around to recover your players, that's going to be not a long run, but a short run. So all this is a time for us to really bring together COVID situation, learn that players as what we are here. It's about the players. It's not about federation. It's even not about the coaches. It's about the players. We're here because of the players, and then because of the fans, then the coaches. and other stuff around. So we have to put all together to have great players, so we can have great shows, great execution, great teams. Now we can create the industry. So we start locally before we go to the ball, invest locally, then we can have a great opportunity on the ball. Ball is a great platform, but if locally we suck, we will not be brilliant at the ball. Sorry about that, but that's the way I see it.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Victor. That's I think those are great comments right there. And unfortunately, our time is almost up. I want us to handle the last topic here. I'm going to take you out, Liz and Victor. Again, thank you so much for those insights. I'm going to bring in Karabani from Tanzania. Karabani, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
We can't see you though.
I don't know why. Can you see me now?
Oh,
no.
You need to work on your camera. You probably have canceled your camera.
Well, maybe.
But as Karabani works on that, let's just talk about the topic at hand. Now, I know this is a topic that's dear to your heart, Albert. You feel very passionate about this, but I want us to talk a little bit as we wrap up, gentlemen. I don't want to take longer than really 5, max 6 minutes on this. We're talking about zoning and language when it comes to FIBA Africa. Now, how are zones determined actually? Because there's a weird situation where you have Zone 5, a bunch of East African countries, and then Egypt, who are all the way up in North Africa, are somehow in our zone. Just briefly explain to us how zoning is determined by FIBA Africa.
I have had this conversation about zoning with some officials from FIBA Africa, in passing, of course. But one of the things that confuses me the most, because these officials suggest that these zones were done organically in terms of people's regions, geographical regions. Where that doesn't make sense is that basketball is a sport. It's not politics or science or some stuff. It's a sport. So for you to put people to compete against each other, you have to put people that share a lot of things in common for them to be able to compete against each other. Because not only do they compete against each other, there's also relations between federations, between players, between all these types of stuff. Which is why we get confused when we see Egypt, which is at the top of the continent, being mixed together with East African countries. It doesn't make sense. Why? You see most of these zones and you look at the countries that are in these zones, and they have things in common. They have languages in common, most of them. If they are Francophones, they are together. If they are Anglophones, they are together, unless they are Anglophones and Francophones that are very close to each other, like how it happens in West Africa. You have countries like Niger that are in the same area with Nigeria, so they end up playing in the same zone just because they are geographically close to each other. But the thing that confuses most people is, for example, the case of Egypt. Egypt, they speak Arabic, even though some of them speak English, but they speak Arabic. They are geographically very distant from us, but more importantly, they have countries that are right next to them that are in Zone 1. That is Libya, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. So geographically, if that's what the explanation is, that's the zone in which they're supposed to be. But somehow, they end up in East Africa. So I came to the conclusion that they are probably in East Africa because at the time of this zoning, Egypt has always been a superpower in the administration of basketball in Africa. So they got themselves out of the region where competition is very stiff, and you could end up losing a sport because there's Tunisia, there's Morocco, there's Algeria, there's Libya. Libya used to be a pretty good basketball team until they got political problems. So every one of the 4 countries in that zone was so good. That's why they brought themselves to a zone where there are already 12 East African countries. So
now,
that
Albert,
creates a situation where you have...
theory or is that a conspiracy theory? Because I also want
definitely it's a conspiracy theory because there was no way of explaining it. There's no other way of explaining it, where you have a zone 1 where Egypt is next to that has 4 countries. Zone 1 has 4 countries and zone 5 has 13 countries. So how's a country that's supposed to be in zone 1 in zone 5 with 13 other countries when zone 1 has 4 countries and still gets 2 slots at Afrobasket?
Carbani, do you agree with that? Do you agree with Albert's sentiments on that?
I totally agree with them. I feel there is some kind of conspiracy behind that. I've been asking that question throughout, and it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why would they bring him all the way to zone 5? It just does not make sense. If it's not, well, it could be the problem is Anglophone doesn't have that much representation out there. And it could be that our voices are not heard from zone 5, because I'm actually also in zone 5, speaking from Tanzania out here. That could be the case. But as for now, we can only speculate. I don't know where we could get that answer, but I know a lot of people from zone 5 are kind of perturbed about this matter. Why is Egypt in this zone instead of playing in zone 1? It just doesn't make sense to a lot of us.
Right. I mean, getting from basically what you guys are saying and what we hear on the ground, there's almost like an unspoken rivalry between Anglophone basketball culture and leadership and Francophone basketball culture. I mean, where does that, besides, of course, the language barrier, where does that actually stem from, Karabani?
Well, I mean, I would say we have adopted a mistake that the AU was made, or OAU back in them days, because when you look at it, the representation, or should I say, they adopted 3 languages for use in their meetings and documentation, and that is French, English, and Arab, right? When you look at it, I'm surprised why Arab is there, because Arab, it's about 70 million people in Africa speak Arabic, whereby more than 100 million speak Kiswahili, and yet Kiswahili is not in there. And then you look at it, even if we take it a little further, Hausa, it's over, it's the second widely spoken language also in Africa. And there are more people speaking Hausa than actually English or French on a daily basis. And yet that's not in there. We've chosen languages that we've gotten from our colonial masters and are using them right now. And a lot of our countries, or a lot of our people, see themselves as Anglophone or Francophone. And I feel like this has been that mistake for so long. We've adopted that, and we are using that in basketball. When you look at it right now, in a lot of the meetings are in French. If not in French, then they're in French. It's pretty much
they're in French all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're in French.
It's in French or in French. And when you go out there, if you do not have a translator, you're by the side, you don't know what's going on. Majority of the tournaments are held in the West. Now, traveling, going to the West, it's really expensive. I'll tell you that. If it's not in the West, it's in Madagascar also. That's also French. It is really expensive going out there. I know my team going out there, FIBA 3-on-3, it was really expensive. One ticket is $1,150 just going out there. It makes it really hard for a lot of these countries traveling, going out there. It's a lot easier for the Francophone to actually participate. So I'm saying they have a lot of things are put in such a way where it's a lot easier for them to get the necessary outcomes that they go for. So the issues have been there for a very long time. And of course, the languages do not help. But everything that we are doing right now is just perpetuating what's already been there. And we're adopting from all these political issues that we've had in Africa for a long period of time.
Right. I mean,
and I have Silale, I have two examples that I've always given people about this problem between Anglophones and Francophones, because it's disheartening, especially if it's your first time there. I've always complained to FIBA about 2 things. The first time I went to a FIBA Africa national team tournament, that's the first time we qualified in 2015. We get to Tunisia, and after we play the first day, On the next morning, FIBA calls a meeting because they were going to introduce the new format of qualification. So they called all the teams to the room. We are in the room. Of the 16 teams that were there, about 8 or 9 were francophone. There were 3 Portuguese, that is Mozambique, Cape Verde, and Angola. Then the rest were English. Ourselves, Uganda, Nigeria, Zimbabwe. There were not many. We were not many English-speaking countries. These guys speak French for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And when you complain, they interpret for you what they've said in 30 minutes in 30 seconds. It doesn't make sense. So I stood up twice. On the second time, I said, Dr. Billy, I'm starting to think you guys are talking about us. Like you guys are hatching a plan or something against us. It doesn't make sense. How can we be in the same meeting? You know, we don't have equipment to interpret. You speak French for 30 minutes. And when we insist on getting a conversation about what you are saying, you tell us what you said in 30 minutes, in 30 seconds. It didn't make sense to me. After the meeting, the guy from Angola walked up to me and told me, in Angola, we come here, they speak French, we beat them, we take the trophy. You do the same. Second thing, I complained about the FIBA Africa monthly update on YouTube. It's always in French. No subtitles, no interpretation, no nothing. FIBA has an update every month on YouTube, and they send out something on FIBA Africa website. It's always in French. It's like everybody else doesn't exist. They just put out a French update, 30 minutes on YouTube, and nothing else for the Anglophones. But you have so many countries that are participating and competing that are from these countries. So unless you intend as an organization and put in place measures to improve this, the disconnect is always going to be there. And it starts from the officials at FIBA Africa and the way they address you when you speak to them. It's like this.
Albert, yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but our time really is bad. Yeah. I just want to, because I don't want us to end on a low. I do want to end this on a high. Yeah. And for me, I'm very solution oriented. So, gentlemen, how do we bridge this gap without being all kumbaya, my lord? Africa unite. We are all one currency. We're talking about FIBA Africa. How do we bridge this gap, and how do we make it more inclusive for the Anglophone speakers and the Francophone speakers? Karabani.
I feel we need to have better representation. We need to have more reps from the Anglophone countries, not just Anglophone countries. I feel like all the countries, I mean, the different languages that do exist in the continent of Africa. It's almost impossible, like you said, it's not going to be kumbaya, let's come together, or just decide to adopt a language right now and then everybody speaks that language. It would be great if we could have one language that Africans do speak, but unfortunately that's not the case. As of right now, it's just representation from different places. That's what we lack. When you look at it, Zone 5 right now, unfortunately our leader is also from Egypt. So as you can see, we don't have that kind of representation. It goes back to the same thing.
We voted him ourselves.
Well, sometimes you do understand that they do ask you, were you under duress? At times we are under duress when we choose certain things because we feel like, okay, this guy or whatever. Okay, let's not get into that and get all political. I feel it's representation. It needs to come down to representation. We need better representation. We need people from Anglophone to also step up. And at the same time, FIBA needs to understand if we are going to develop this game, it's not just, let's focus on the region that's performing better, because it is true, Francophone is performing better than Anglophone. There's no discussion right there. But there has to be some effort to actually uplift or help the other regions. And that could mean certain competitions or tournaments being held there to inspire, or at least to make it easily accessible. Or it could be with some of the fees, because certain countries just do not want to participate now. They've given up. They're like, you know what? Oh, well, we going out there, it's not going to happen. There's so many fees that we need to pay, or we are back on our fees and all that, and we just just not going to participate now. So everything is catered for the very same people, and meetings, instead of 2 years, we could have meetings on a more frequent basis, or at least on a regional base more frequently. So actually some of our grievances could be heard. I feel like that's maybe the way we could move forward.
Right, right. Albert, briefly, anything else to add to those possible solutions?
Yeah, and I like what Karaban is saying, but I also feel that on the competition end, we need to do better as Anglophones. We need to keep pushing ourselves to do better. I was very, very happy with the performance of Kenya at AfroCan, because that's a voice for us. For them to go there and do what they did in that tournament, get to the finals, beat seasoned teams that have better leagues, more funded, because essentially AfroCan focuses on players that come from our home leagues. So for players from a home league like Kenya to go out there and perform the way they did, I was extremely, extremely proud. And it's going to take performances like that for us to be able to enter a meeting and speak and be heard, because now if they can respect the product that we put on the basketball court, then they will eventually start to respect the view that we give. The challenge of the fees that Karaban is talking about, it comes from the same representation that he talks about. As we have to put in place representatives that go out there and help us solve problems of FIBA being the organization that takes, never gives anything. You look at all these other sports, their international federations bring something back to the home federations that participate in their championships. FIBA never gives anything. It just takes. So our representation, whoever we vote into our offices, let's take back our zone. Let's get someone from the zone who understands the region to step up and be a representative of the zone. Let's get guys from Nigeria. The champions of Nigeria have been the champions both in the women and in the men. They understand the need for the Anglophone, so they have to be able to represent better on their end as well. Combine together an effort of all the teams from the Anglophone countries. We have got to step up. We have got to make it impossible for ourselves to be ignored, both on the basketball court and in the boardroom. So it's on our end to step up.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for these insights. I wish you could see the comments. People are going insane about this particular topic. In fact, they're saying that we need to have an entire session dedicated solely to this particular topic. I feel like it's a bit emotional, but it's something that needs to happen.
And Silale, before we go, I wanted to give kudos to a country from our zone that has constructed a beautiful international standard facility, Rwanda, and now they are hosting all these tournaments. So to also tell our countries that if we can construct facilities that are as good as Rwanda, if the facility is beautiful, if it's world class, the tournaments are going to come to you. Since last year when that facility opened, Rwanda has got under 16, they have got BAL qualifiers, they were supposed to get the BAL finals. Now there's talk that FIBA Africa is requesting Rwanda to host 3 groups of the AfroBasket qualifiers in December and November. So if you build a beautiful facility, you will bring yourself to the conversation. And now Rwanda cannot be ignored, because besides Senegal and Rades in Tunis, nobody has a stadium as big as them for basketball. So we have to bring things like that to the table to be able to be recognized. And I'm glad it's a country from our zone that is doing it.
I'm also glad, Albert.
Totally,
I'm also glad.
True.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for your. Really appreciate you having.
Thank you, Selale.
And that brings us actually to the end of this African basketball conversation. I'm going to bring Femi back into the stream. Femi, it was brilliant. People shared such incredible insights, and really, I think African basketball is in good hands. I always tell you that we need to make sure that the people who are the true stakeholders and investors and voices of African basketball are viewed as such. We can't let anyone else dictate who those people are. And according to me, the 10 people that were in this particular conversation are some of the greatest minds on the continent when it comes to African basketball. I'm sure our second edition will have other great minds representing from. I'd like to see some more people from South Africa, some more from Northern Africa to discuss on different topics around African basketball. But I really enjoyed that, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Silali, for doing a fantastic job. I must commend the way you handle things. A lot of, was some people were quite a handful to deal with. I don't want to mention any names, but it was really enlightening. I've been going through all the comments, and it's been very interesting. And I got one particularly very interesting one, who was like, these guys are quite smart. They know the game. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what we plan to do. Bring you the best minds across the continent who follow this game passionately. It's more like a daily job for most of us, that are talking about this. So it's pure passion. I want to thank everybody who has joined through. It's been really a roller coaster trying to get through Twitter and YouTube and figuring out what's going on Facebook, just to see what people are saying, and so we can take all the feedback and use that to plan, for the next. We won't be releasing any dates now, so just keep following Ball Africa, Ball's Activation, Interest and Leadership in Africa. That's the non-profit who organize this, and I want to thank everybody who has supported this, from our Rant Bake, where Silali does our thing. Muzadi Court for coming through. Thank you very much. We really appreciate B-Ball Niger from Nigeria as well. And Avoa Basket, that's Mr. Regis in the building, and his partner, Richard Sikabi. You guys have been amazing. Trust me, this is just the beginning in Africa. And we mean it when we say this is going to be a turning point, for basketball in Africa. Yes, we will talk, but we'll also walk. Trust me, we will walk this talk at some point, but we need to get the conversation going. Let more ears hear this. So please share these videos across your platform. Let people know that a conversation is going on for basketball on this continent. We are ready to do things better, ensure that this goes around all the corners of the continent. By the way, in case you missed it, we were able to put our footprint across all the zones in Africa. When I say zones, I don't mean the FIBA zones that is controversial. I mean, we covered East and Southern Africa, with, of course, Angola, and we had Tanzania in there. Uganda, we were able to cover North Africa with Tunisia. We had Central and West Africa with Cameroon and Nigeria. So we try to have our footprint across the continent. We'll continue to look towards that direction, and we'll bring in more topics for you to discuss. So just keep it a date with us. Thank you for tuning in. This is history in the making, and it's just the first step in 1,000 more steps and in 1,000 miles. So Silali, thank you for being a very lovely host. I think on behalf of the entire team, I want to say thank you, and it's good night from me.